Get ready to hop in the NASCAR time machine because this weekend's Darlington Throwback Weekend is upon us. By the end of this video, you will learn everything that you need to know for this weekend's Xfinity Series and NASCAR Cup Series races from Darlington. My name is John, the Motorsport Enthusiast, and this is my weekly NASCAR race preview that goes out every single Wednesday. Let's dive right into it. First, talking about the schedule. Like I said before, Darlington is hosting the Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series, and all times are Eastern Time, by the way. On Saturday, April 5th, Xfinity Series practice starts at 10:05 a.m., followed by Xfinity Series qualifying at 11:10, both being shown on the CW app. Cup Series practice starts at 12:35, with Cup Series qualifying starting at 1:40, both being shown on Amazon Prime. And then the green flag for the Xfinity Series race from Darlington starts at 3:30 p.m. Give me a second, because there's a lot of words here. It's called the Sports Clips Haircuts VFW Help a Hero 200. That's a lot of words. That'll be on the CW. And on Sunday, April 6th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time is going to be the Goodyear 400. Second, let's talk about Mother Nature and the weather forecast for this weekend. On Saturday, it's going to be hot and sunny with highs near the 90s, rain chance of around 10 to 12%, and winds light with the humidity about 7%, so a really nice day for racing. Now on Sunday, we're going to see the mid to upper 80s, partly cloudy with 73% humidity, and a 24% chance of rain. Go William Byron. Go Jeff Gordon. Late into the evening, so no risk of the race being rained out as of late. So make sure to bring sunscreen and bring a handheld fan. It's going to be a hot one. Third, let's talk about the race info. The Xfinity Series Sports Clips Haircuts VFW Help a Hero 200, I think I said that correctly, will be 147 laps, which is 200.8 miles, with stage breaks at lap 45 and lap 90. And on Sunday, the Goodyear 400 will be 293 laps or 400 miles, with stage breaks at lap 90 and lap 185. The fuel window for the Cup cars is anywhere between 67 to 70 laps. And for tire limits, the NASCAR Cup Series will have 1 set for practice, 1 set for qualifying, and 11 sets for the race. 10 sets of tires in the pits with 1 tire carried over from qualifying. And tire wear is massive here. I mean, it's a cheese grater. Just destroys the tires. It eats it for breakfast. So expect a lot of 4-tire stops and a lot of long run strategy. Next, let's go through the Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series throwback schemes for this weekend. Starting off with the Xfinity Series, we have Carson Kvapil running a 2010 Jamie McMurray throwback. Love that scheme there. Next, you have Parker Retzlaff in the number 4. He'll be running a 1990s Ernie Irvan throwback scheme. Then you have Justin Allgaier running a Brandt Heritage Chevrolet, and Sammy Smith throwing back Dale Earnhardt Jr. 2003 Three Doors Down scheme. Next, we have Daniel Dye in the number 10, honoring Adam Petty with his 1999 throwback. And then you have Josh Williams in the 11, throwing it back to Mark Martin's 2007 Army scheme. Now, it's a little bit different. It's not the gold that we've seen. It's this bright blue. Either way, still looks cool. Next, we have Garrett Smithley throwing it back to 1993 Terry Labonte number 14 car. And William Sawalich throwing it back to 2016 with Kyle Busch's NOS Energy scheme. Next, you have the 19 of Christopher Bell. He's throwing it back to his racing mentor, Rick Ferkel. Followed by Brandon Jones in the number 20 for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's throwing it back to the Dollar General scheme that Matt Kenseth ran in 2013. Next, you have Harrison Burton throwing it back to his dad, Jeff Burton, his 2000 paint scheme there. Absolutely love this car. And then you have Dean Thompson throwing it back to Jamie McMurray's 2009 Talladega scheme. I love the purple. I love the yellow. Looks phenomenal. Then you have Jeb Burton throwing it back to Ward Burton's 1994 scheme. Kyle Sieg will be racing the number 28 that throws back to Ricky Rudd's 2002 car. And let me tell you, this scheme, just with a glance, looks exactly like Ricky Rudd's. I love the way that they use the night owl with the font. You have the logo at the top. Looks great. Next, you have a little bit of a different interpretation on Dale Jarrett's 1999 scheme. It's actually a reverse throwback. Same number style, same style of car, but instead of being blue, it's actually white. And then you have Sam Mayer driving the number 41 Haas factory team Ford, throwing it back to 2017 Kurt Busch's Daytona 500 car. Next, one of my favorite throwbacks of the weekend, you have Brennan Poole throwing it back to 2001 Jeff Gordon's Chrome Illusion Purpling Looney Tunes scheme. I absolutely love this car. I love that they also have cartoons on it as well. And then you have Mason Massey driving the 45, throwing it back to Jimmy Spencer's No Bull 1999 paint scheme. You have Nick Sanchez driving the number 48, throwing it back to 1975 Bobby Unser's car from the Indianapolis 500. And then you have Jeremy Clements racing the number 51, throwing it back to 1985 for Harry Gant's scheme. And then another one of my favorites, you have Leland Honeyman Jr. throwing it back to the Nesquik car that Jeff Green ran in 2000. Love this car. Love the chocolate milk on the side. It looks so good. You have Ryan Ellis throwing it back to himself. This is his 2001 U.S. Legends Car Throwback. Connor Zilic throwing it back to 1987 Buddy Baker's scheme. And then you have Matt DiBenedetto throwing it all the way back to Jeff Burton's 2000 scheme. This is an icon. Looks fantastic. Now let's move on to the NASCAR Cup Series. You have Austin Cindric throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt's 1980 scheme. Love the colors. Love the number. It looks really nice. Next, you have Noah Gragson throwing it back to Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s 1996 car. Another car that doesn't require any introduction. Kyle Larson, Terry Labonte, Tony the Tiger, 2003. We've been wanting this, and we got it. Next, you have a scheme that has been kind of not liked very much. It's Chase Elliott throwing back to Ken Schrader's 1994 car. The colors are a little off. I'll have to admit that for sure. I'm sorry. It just doesn't look good. And then with a somewhat accurate throwback is Ty Dillon's car back to Patty Moy's 1989, the Beaver Street Foods throwback, but now it's the Beaver Street Fisheries. One of the most accurate throwbacks, obviously, different number, but still the car looks really nice. Then you have Denny Hamlin throwing it back to the 2000s with Cousin Carl, number 99 Office Depot. I love that paint scheme. This scheme looks phenomenal on the 11. Then you have Ryan Blaney throwing it back to his dad, Dave Blaney, Charlotte Xfinity Series car. I get what they're trying to do here. It does look pretty different, though, from a color scheme perspective. Either way, I like the idea. I love the font of the number. Next, you have Christopher Bell throwing it back to his mentor again, this time in the 20. Love how DeWalt played into this as well. I think it's a really cool tribute. Now, on to one of my favorites of the weekend. This is Josh Berry's throwback to Jim Clark's 1965 Indy 500 winning paint scheme. Just looks phenomenal. I love the font on the side. The number looks great. It just tops the charts. I think it's one of the best ones. Definitely a top 5. Then you have Joey Logano throwing it back to Cale Yarborough. 1976 throwback there. A little bit different here with the style, but still looks really nice on this 22. Then, my personal favorite of the weekend, William Byron throwing it back to Jeff Gordon's Final Ride Exalta car from 2015. Are we going to be able to see this car finally hit victory lane? I know as a Gordon fan, I wanted to see that car get in victory lane back in 2015. 10 years later, can we see it happen? Next, we have Cole Custer throwing it back to Jimmy Spencer's Target number 41 car. Looks really nice with the Haas logo. It makes a lot of sense to why they did this. I think it looks decent. And then another one that is kind of questionable from a color perspective. I understand why they do it because of Dollar Tree, but this is John Hunter Nemechek throwing it back to Joe Nemechek 1998. The colors are just off for me. I get the scheme. I understand it. But the colors, I just think don't do it for me. Then we have Eric Jones throwing it back to John Andretti's scheme from 1998. This is just a classic car. You know this is Petty Enterprises. It looks phenomenal. Another Hendrick car that I think cooked this year was Alex Bowman throwing it back to 2012 when Jimmy Johnson won the 200th race for Hendrick Motorsports. I love the black and the white on cars. I think it looks phenomenal. Good job, Hendrick. And then you have Cody Ware throwing this back to Ward Burton's late 1990s cat scheme, honoring Tommy Baldwin Jr., who crew chiefed the car and is the competition director for Rick Ware Racing. Those are all the throwbacks that we are going to see this weekend. There might be some late releases. Let me know what's your favorite. Let me know in the comments. And also, let's take a quick pit stop. If you've enjoyed the video so far, it would mean the world for you to subscribe so you don't miss any other content that I put out about NASCAR, Formula One, IndyCar, whatever motorsport it might be. Now let's dive into some Darlington stats and trends. Over the last 6 races in Darlington, which is when the Gen 7 era started, we have seen 6 different winners. Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, Eric Jones, William Byron, Kyle Larson, and Brad Keselowski. Looking at all time here though, Denny Hamlin leads all active drivers with the most wins with 4 wins and the best average finish of 8.2. He also just won Martinsville. Now let's talk about Tyler Reddick. He has the most top 5s and most top 10s in the Gen 7 era here at Darlington. Could he make a splash? Kyle Larson. We got to talk about him. He's one of those drivers who has a win here. He has 2 top 5s. He's led 392 laps led, which is the most out of any driver in the Gen 7 era at Darlington. But he also has 2 DNFs at Darlington. That kind of worries me. Now, a sleeper, that some would say, but he's won here twice, is Eric Jones. It suits him. He could be a sneaky pick. Plus, the car looks phenomenal. I mean, seeing those colors back in victory lane would be amazing. And another driver you have to talk about who has a win here is my driver, William Byron. He has an average finish of 10.3, the highest among all active drivers in the Gen 7 era here at Darlington. Could we see him get win number 2? Now let's talk about speed ranking. So essentially how fast the car actually is compared to other drivers. In 2024 at Darlington, Kyle Larson and Tyler Reddick are actually tied with the highest speed ranking between the 2 races. William Byron sits 3rd, Denny Hamlin sits 4th, and Ryan Blaney sits in 5th. And one stat I want to look at, and this is what I've looked at in every single race this year, has been the drivers trending towards the front statistic. That's mine. I've coined that, trademarked that. You can't use that. No, I'm kidding. Basically what this means is that, let's say, for example, Josh Berry, he had a speed ranking of 11th, so he was 11th fastest overall in the spring, and then in the fall of 2024, he was 4th fastest. What I do is look and see who has actually been trending in the right direction over the last 6 races or the Gen 7 era. So let's talk about some of those drivers who have started a little bit further on back, but have made their way up through the speed rankings in the last 3 years at Darlington. One of those drivers, Ryan Blaney. By the way, I'm going to look at this because there's a lot of numbers, so pay attention. So starting from 2022 spring to 2024 fall, he was 13th fastest, 9th, 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 and 6th. So he's trending in the right direction. Bubba Wallace is another driver, 14th, 12th, 9th, 11th, 9th, and 8th, trending in the right direction. Brad Keselowski, he has that win here, 27th, 19th, 8th, 8th, 2nd, then 19th. I'm not too worried about that 19th in the speed ranking in the fall of 2024. I think that's a little bit of a fluke. He has been trending in 5 out of the 6 races towards the front. I think that RFK machine is going to be strong again this weekend. Chase Briscoe's another one, 24th, 33rd, 31st, 19th, 12th, 3rd. Watch out for Briscoe. Ty Gibbs, 21st, 20th, 23rd, 3rd, 9th. He's somewhat on the fence. That big jump from 23rd to 3rd is what I'm looking at here, and he's somewhat sustained in that top 10. I still consider that trending upwards. Another driver who's an RFK driver is Chris Buescher, 29th, 31st, 25th, 5th, 4th, and 11th. Again, the fall race wasn't pretty for RFK from a speed ranking perspective, but I think overall they're going to have speed in the spring. And then Todd Gilliland, 31st, 27th, 21st, 34th, 12th, and 13th. Another stat you can look at is actually just the spring and the fall races alone. And for example, Todd Gilliland in the spring of 2022 to 2024, 31st, 21st, 12th. So trending upwards specifically in the spring, that might be a little bit more accurate due to track conditions and the time of year that we're in. But now let's talk about some of the drivers that have been trending backwards in the wrong direction. One of those drivers is Ross Chastain, 2nd, 11th, 1st, 15th, 15th, and 19th. Not good. Joey Logano, 5th, 14th, 22nd, 8th, 14th. He's kind of those drivers that, okay, can he see possibly a top 10, a top 5? It's more of a question mark to me. Chase Elliott, 10th, 20th, 12th, 10th, 21st, 21st. Hasn't been friendly to him. And then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., one of the worst speed ranking trends, 17th, 26th, 9th. Sounds really good, right? But then 18th, 31st, 32nd. No bueno. Now let's talk about the current betting odds for this weekend's race at Darlington. Looking at the top 10, Kyle Larson at a plus 450, Tyler Reddick plus 650, Ryan Blaney plus 700, Denny Hamlin plus 700, William Byron plus 800, Christopher Bell plus 1,000, Joey Logano plus 1,500, Chase Briscoe plus 1,500, Bubba Wallace at a plus 1,600, and Ross Chastain at a plus 1,800. Some of the drivers that I think you should look out for: Eric Jones plus 5,000 to win, Alex Bowman plus 3,000 to win, Brad Keselowski plus 2,800, Chris Buescher plus 2,200. And essentially what that means, let's say Eric Jones wins the race. Let's say you bet $10 and it's a plus 5,000 odds bet. That means you will win $500. If somebody is a plus 750, you bet $10, you win $75. Now, who is my pick for this weekend's race at Darlington? This driver is the only driver with an average speed ranking of 6th or better in every single Darlington race in the Gen 7 era. He has the highest speed ranking out of all drivers with 4.17 in the last 6 races. He also has the highest average finish among all active Cup Series drivers in the Gen 7 era at Darlington. And he was fast at Homestead Miami Speedway, a track that requires 2 things that you need at Darlington: throttle control, the ability to save tires. I think this pick is finally going to get a win in this final ride paint scheme. I'm going to go with Willie B, William Byron, as my pick to win. He showed consistent speed at Homestead, a track that requires the same skill set as Darlington. I think he's got a fast car. He's been consistent this year. He's been consistent in the spring and the fall here at Darlington. I think he can get another throwback win. Now, the only issue is I'm going to need more shells for all his throwback schemes. I got 2 of them right there. Actually, I have 3 of them right there. So if he wins again, I just need a whole nother shelf. And that's your full rundown of this weekend's Darlington Throwback Weekend in NASCAR. If you enjoyed the video and you got some value from it, and you want to see more content from me, it would mean the world for you to subscribe, as I'm attempting to turn motorsports into a semi-full-time career with content creation and all of those things. It would mean the world for you to hit that subscribe button and join the motorsport enthusiast community. Now, I'll be back next week at 5 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday to give you my preview for next week's race, which is Bristol, the Food City 500. And that's going to drop next Wednesday, April 9th at 5 p.m. Central Time. And until then, in the words of the great Darrell Waltrip, boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go throwback racing, boys. See you on the next one.